Come to Helmuth Ford, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Hi, this is Stacy from Shetler Insurance Services. Come see me on the east side of the square in Sigourney for all your insurance needs.
Kenny Falls returns to the Keswick Tavern at 117 South Iron Street in Keswick this Saturday, May 17th. Kenny will be playing from 8 to 11 p.m. No cover charge. It'll be a great time while listening to some fantastic music, all while having some drinks with your friends. It's this Saturday, May 17th from 8 to 11, Kenny Falls live at the Keswick Tavern, and there's no cover charge. 2 years ago was the last time you heard me on the radio. That is about to change.
Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For. Trevor's back this week. Last week I kind of went on my own just a little bit, went a little shorter, and thank people, and I want to continue to do that. For those of you who do follow, I do coach Tumble Girls Golf, and Steve Shetler had me on his morning sports show on Saturday mornings, and I do want to thank him for that and promoting high school sports, and then obviously bringing Ottumwa up to Sigourney for that day, and then Albia was there too with their soccer team. So Steve does a great job, and other people do too. Scott Jackson from the Ottumwa Courier does a great job as well promoting local high school sports, and those people don't get enough credit, and the local radio stations and everybody. I do think we are very well represented here in Southeast Iowa with media like that. Valley and Waukees and Ankeny's. They might have better teams and everything, but the Des Moines Register doesn't send people to all their stuff. They don't have a writer that gets to know the girls or the boys or whoever it is, and we're lucky here in a rural part of the state. Was still, Ottumwa's a big enough town to support a radio station. They do have a TV station and newspaper. So we are very lucky in that sense to get that coverage that not everybody does. And that's one thing I do try to, tell my girls, that not every team gets this. And when I coach basketball and I coach football in the past, Scott Jackson's just, there's no way they pay him enough to do what he does. And he does a great job, and I do want to thank him for that, and others as well.
Yeah, thanks to Steve. I know I'm not living in Iowa anymore. Where I get most of my sporting news in the state of Iowa is either with Keith Murphy for more of the college stuff. Obviously, Steve Shetler Media for Southeast Iowa. That's usually where I go to try to get all my information. And then I know I think Brett Foster runs the Oski Boys golf account on Facebook. And I know a lot of people put in just personal time, stuff that maybe they're not even getting paid for to help keep everybody updated on Southeast Iowa sports. So you're right. It takes a lot of people to kind of keep everybody updated on what's going on with all the different sports, boys, girls at all levels.
Yep. Just wanted to get that out there. And again, we want to thank Steve. He helps us out as well. A little bit extra there with obviously putting our show on. All right, getting into this week, it is getting a little bit, and I listened to, Murph and Andy, the Morning Rush, the Rush, there's several different shows, and this is becoming the time of the year that you kind of have to maybe dig, or maybe you go off tangent and you don't talk as much sports, because, we're not a big NBA talk. We don't talk much NBA. Baseball's hard to do because it is every day, but it's not trade deadline time. It's not getting to August, September when the races are taking shape. Hockey, same thing. We just don't talk about it. The playoffs are awesome. I like to turn on a game, but I don't have a team that I'm following. Same thing with the NBA. So this is where you can go tangent and everything. However, in the state of Iowa, and with us in particular, the Caitlin Clark effect has changed that a little bit. And that's leading our program tonight is Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever, WNBA, final cut down day for a lot of teams today. And the season starts Friday with the Fever playing Saturday, as Trevor just informed me. He is our insider, as we call him. And last summer that really helped out a lot, because those of you who have followed us for a long time, there was the first 3-4 years of our podcast, we kind of took the summers off. Even we just, we'd ended about now, and then we'd come back end of July, early August when it's ready for football. With Steve, letting us be on his show, that's still a weekly thing. He still wants that programming. That pushed us. But then Caitlin Clark has helped that a lot, and not going on tangents and having to talk about Mount Rushmores and, things that always get done this time of year in sports talk radio and throughout the summer. But so we do want to thank Caitlin Clark as well for providing us information to talk about. And then the NBA actually has been very compelling this year compared to normal, I think. More storylines. Some of that is with Halliburton being an Iowa State guy, kind of being the face of the Pacers. And you could almost say the most newsworthy person over the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. You don't know how it's going to go forward, but beating Giannis, last second shot, his dad coming in, now beating the number 1 seed Cavaliers 4-1, great game to end it. He's playing all NBA type right now. And with that local connection, that does help us a lot.
Yeah, for the state of Indiana, between Caitlin Clark, Halliburton, I'm sure you've seen the post going around. If the Colts can just find a quarterback, the whole state of Indiana is really good, in a really good spot right now. Notre Dame was in obviously the championship game. Indiana football's got Kurt Cinetti. Purdue, Purdue's good in men's basketball. So if the Colts can find a quarterback, the whole state of Indiana is in a pretty good spot. And really starting with Caitlin Clark, of course.
Yep.
They got their final roster cut down. Their first game is Saturday at 2:00 Iowa time. It's going to be on ABC versus Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. So we knew that was coming. You could have gave us any amount of guesses before the season or before they released that. That's what everybody would have guessed. So they're a 7.5 point favorite. Expectations are really high for the Fever, as they should be. They brought in a bunch of new players. Caitlin Clark is the favorite to win MVP, which I think she and Asia should be, which those are the 2 favorites. What I'm really interested in the first game and then early on in the season, first of all, looking at their schedule, it's a lot more reasonable than it was last year, the first 10 games. So I really think they can get off to a 7-3 or an 8-2 start through their first 10. But what I'm going to really be interested in is, especially against Chicago and like I said, the first quarter of the season, when the shots aren't falling, maybe when some of these new teammates aren't used to the passes, what's the communication like during the game? Do they continue to communicate and have good ball movement, or does it turn into one-on-one basketball? We see that all the time in men's and women's, both sides. When the communication stops, a lot of times it turns into one-on-one. The difference this year is the Fever have so many great individual players that they can probably win a lot of games if they just have 1 or 2 players go off, compared to last year where they had to play really well as a team. Now, if they want to get to the finals this year, they are going to have to play good as a team. But I think they're going to be able to get away with maybe playing a C game as a team a lot of times throughout the year, just because they've got so much individual talent.
Did they finish undefeated preseason?
3-0, yep.
Yeah, so it's not a big sample, but we talked about it every time they added a free agent or whatever. They are a much, much, much improved team on paper. It is, you just talked about it, hit it right on the head. Communication, figuring it out. Most of these players have not played with Caitlin Clark, and she gives you passes when you don't think it's going to be there, and it is right on the money. But if you're not ready for it, it doesn't work. So there will be some growing pains with that. But as you said, individually, they're good enough that Caitlin Clark can go off for 30. She can go do a triple-double. Bonner can take over a game. There's others that can just, when you need a bucket, you can go get it. And it's not just one player. And sometimes in basketball, that is what you need. Hey, things aren't working great. Get it to your player, set a ball screen, or get out of the way and let them do what they do.
Yeah, they've got so much talent on the team that I think there could be 2 or 3 game stretches where everybody's healthy, but one or two of the players doesn't really score much. And it might seem like they're not playing well, but it could just be one of the factors could be that they don't really need them to score because other players are playing so well depending on the matchups. Also, I think Stephanie White's going to try to get Caitlin Clark's minutes down a little. She's talked about, they're really deep, so I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to cut a minute or two off of Caitlin's minutes per game last year. I think she averaged right around 36 minutes. They play 40-minute games, so don't be shocked if she tries to give Caitlin a little bit more rest. And the good thing about having all this depth, too, is if there's an injury, if Caitlin or anybody has to miss a game or two, they can still go out there and win.
And that's what you want. You want them. So this first game, I haven't even looked. Is it in Chicago or is it in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis.
Okay, so it's at Gainbridge Arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps continuing, and everything I see, they just keep moving games when the Fever and Caitlin Clark are involved to the big arenas in that city. Doesn't matter what city, doesn't matter what it is. If they don't play in the big arena, they move it to the big arena when she gets there.
Yeah, most of her games are going to go to the bigger arenas. Speaking of the Saturday game, if they win, it's going to be great. Everyone's going to think, okay, this team can go win the title. If they lose, it'll be a big deal. The Fever will be overrated, but as we know, they're either going to be 1-0 or 0-1, and they've got 39 other games to play. If you look at, just to give you an idea, Vegas has their over-under win total 29.5. Now they play 40 regular season games, so they have the second best win totals as far as over-unders go. And I do think about 29-11, 30-10 is realistic for them. Last year they went 20-20 in the regular season. This season I would be disappointed if, assuming health, of course. I think 25-15 minimum is where they need to be or better.
Yeah, and then health is always a thing, and we're going to get to that in the NBA real quick. And health is a real situation, and another great player, one of the elite players, goes down for a year. I mean, he's not going to be ready for the beginning of next year. And we'll get to that. But so besides the Fever, who is the team still favored to win it? You said they were second to win it?
New York, I think their over-unders 30.5 or 31.5. And then the Fever, Minnesota, and Vegas are all tied at 29.5 with their win totals. So those are the big four. And most people think that's going to be the potentially any matchup of those four will be the finals. And, speaking of Chicago's win total is 19.5. So it kind of shows you the gap there between the Fever and the Sky. So we'll see how Chicago comes out that first game, but New York is the favorite, and then Vegas, the Fever, and Minnesota kind of bunched together.
And New York is the defending champ, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Ionescu, right? And she there.
And Stewart, and I'm starting to learn where some of these players are at besides, Indiana, and I'm sure you are too, and a lot of others that just started watching last year like we did. So I'm starting to figure out certain names. I'm starting to recognize them a little bit more, but last year I had no idea what to expect. I know you did, and nobody really did.
Right.
We didn't know what channels they were going to be on. We didn't know 95% of the players in the league. The scheduling, the arena is it's a little bit different than the NBA, and trying to get all that figured out. Feel like I have a little better grasp on it going into this season. And then, of course, the Fever are going to be on a lot of main broadcasts, so that's going to help the folks in Iowa and other places be able to watch the games.
I did hear something, and I did not listen to it enough to go real in-depth on this, but I believe Iowa and the Indiana Fever did some type of deal where in the Des Moines area, which is our local area, Channel 5 is going to have their games, almost all of them, even the ones not on the national. Obviously, there's probably going to be some games on ESPN and stuff but they're like local broadcasts that would be locally in Indianapolis on a random Tuesday night against whoever, I believe is being put on in like 3 or 4 places in Iowa, and Channel 5 in Des Moines. And I think there's a Quad City station and maybe a Sioux City station or a Council. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of them around that either bought the rights or were given the rights to something that they're going to be able to watch almost every game for technically free.
You're right.
I mean,
I just got on their social media page real quick. So yeah, Des Moines, WOI, and
Yep, that's Channel 5. Yep.
23. So yeah, in the Des Moines area, and then Davenport will have
Okay.
their channels. But yeah, for Oski, that'll be 5 and 23, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big deal, and that's smart. You know, the fire's going. We want to strike. I mean, don't let it fall. You know, and the more people can watch, you know, hometown team, you've got that market just ready to go. And if you just feed it, and you will make money. I promise. I think, you know, the preseason game or exhibition game going to Iowa City was great. Maybe you can't go there every year, but I think you try to get to Des Moines next year. If it works with the arena.
Yeah, depending on scheduling and how all that works, I would have to think that the Fever would try to get to Iowa at least once a year for a preseason game, wherever it might be. The arena was packed. It got over 1 million viewers. You and everybody else saw all the different sporting events that have beat out. So yeah, I think that's going to be a no-brainer for the Fever moving forward.
Yeah, it's just, ESPN will broadcast it. It will sell out in as little time as it actually takes to physically buy tickets. And yeah, it's just a big deal. We as Iowans, we do everything we can to claim athletes like this. We don't have to do anything to claim her. She is from Des Moines. Her family is from Des Moines. She went to the University of Iowa, and now she's in a pro sports team that's not that far away. It's not the closest team, but it is close enough. And, you know, kind of a match made if they do an exhibition or a true preseason game, the Minnesota Lynx coming down and playing with the Iowa Wild having that affiliation. And then Bridget Carleton, one of Iowa State's all-time best players, is one of the key contributors to Minnesota.